She once believed her life was simple and honest. She grew up learning that patience, respect, and hard work could fix almost anything. When she married him, she truly thought she was stepping into safety. He spoke gently in the beginning. He promised protection, stability, and a future where she would never feel alone again. Her family trusted him. Her friends admired him. To everyone else, he looked like a responsible man with ambition and good manners. She believed every word he said. At first, the marriage felt normal. They lived in a modest home, managed expenses carefully, and made plans for the future. She cooked, cleaned, and supported him in his work. She encouraged him during his failures and celebrated his small successes. When he came home tired or angry, she listened. She thought that love meant patience, and patience meant endurance. If he raised his voice, she told herself it was stress. If he criticized her, she believed she needed to improve. Slowly, without realizing it, she began adjusting her life around his moods. The changes did not happen all at once. They came quietly, disguised as concern. He started telling her which friends were bad influences. He said they did not respect their marriage. He questioned why she needed to visit her family so often. He checked her phone and asked who she talked to during the day. At first, she laughed it off. She thought it meant he cared. She did not see the warning signs because they arrived wrapped in sweet words. Over time, his tone changed. His questions became accusations. His advice turned into orders. He decided how money should be spent and kept control of their savings. When she asked questions, he reminded her that he was the one working harder. When she tried to argue, he called her ungrateful. He never hit her, but his words cut deeply. He knew exactly how to make her doubt herself. He would insult her confidence, then later act kind, as if nothing had happened. This cycle confused her and made her silent. She stopped sharing her feelings because they were always used against her. When she cried, he mocked her for being weak. When she stayed quiet, he accused her of being cold. Nothing she did was ever right. Slowly, her world became smaller. Friends stopped calling because she always canceled plans. Family visits became rare because he complained every time she mentioned them. She felt lonely even while sitting next to him. The real damage began when he started blaming her for his failures. If he lost money, it was because she distracted him. If someone criticized him, he said she embarrassed him. He told others that she was careless and difficult. At gatherings, he would joke about her mistakes, making people laugh while she stood there smiling, feeling small inside. No one noticed the pain behind her eyes. One day, a serious argument changed everything. He accused her of hiding money and lying to him. She denied it, but he refused to listen. That night, he left the house and did not return until morning. When he came back, his face was cold and distant. From that day on, he treated her like a burden. He stopped giving her money and demanded to know every detail of her day. She felt trapped, but she still hoped things could improve. Then the rumors started. People whispered that she was dishonest. Some said she had a bad character. Others claimed she was responsible for financial problems. She did not understand where these stories came from. She soon realized they came from her own husband. He spoke to people before she ever could. He shaped the story in his favor. Whenever she tried to defend herself, no one believed her. He looked calm and reasonable. She looked emotional and desperate. One evening, she returned home to find her belongings packed. He stood by the door and told her it was over. He said she had embarrassed him and destroyed his reputation. He claimed he could no longer trust her. She begged him to explain, but he refused. He told her to leave quietly if she cared about dignity. With nowhere else to go, she walked out carrying only a small bag and a heavy heart. The days that followed were cruel. Her family questioned her. Friends avoided her. Some believed she must have done something wrong if her husband left her so suddenly. She felt ashamed even though she knew she was innocent. She tried calling him, but he never answered. He blocked her from every way she could reach him. It was as if she never existed. Finding work became difficult. Her confidence was broken. Employers sensed her fear and hesitation. When she finally found small jobs, the pay was barely enough to survive. She rented a tiny room and lived quietly. At night, she replayed every moment of her marriage, wondering where she had failed. She blamed herself even when she should not have. Despite everything, she refused to speak badly about him. She believed truth would one day surface on its own. She focused on surviving one day at a time. She woke early, worked long hours, and returned to her empty room. Sometimes she cried silently so no one could hear her. Sometimes she stared at the wall, feeling numb. The woman who once smiled easily now avoided mirrors. Months passed and life remained hard. Just when she thought she could not fall any lower, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, while working at a small place, she noticed a man observing her quietly. He was well-dressed, but not proud. There was something calm about him. Their eyes met briefly and he looked away. She felt a strange sense of familiarity, though she could not explain why. He returned again the next day and the day after. He never asked personal questions. He simply spoke politely and thanked her for her work. Unlike others, he treated her with respect, as if she mattered. She did not know it then, but that moment marked the beginning of a change she never saw coming at that time. She had no idea who he truly was, or why fate had crossed their paths. She only knew that, for the first time in a long while, someone looked at her without judgment. And though her life was still broken, a small, quiet hope began to grow inside her, one she was too afraid to name yet. Life did not get easier, but she began to notice small changes in herself. The constant fear and sadness still lingered, but now there was a spark of determination. She understood that if she wanted to survive, she had to rebuild not only her life, but also her confidence. She decided to take small steps. Each morning, she would wake early, stretch, and remind herself that she deserved more than the misery that had been forced upon her at work. The man who had quietly observed her started to speak to her more. He asked about her day and listened with attention. He never judged, never questioned her past, and never gave advice that seemed patronizing. She found it strange to speak to someone who genuinely listened. In the evenings, she would replay their conversations in her mind. A sense of safety started to return, and with it, courage. She started thinking about her future for the first time in months. Her savings were minimal, but she used what she had carefully. She began taking small classes at night, learning new skills that might help her get a better job. Her days became structured. She left home with purpose, returned tired but proud, and slowly regained a sense of control. She realized she was not helpless. She could survive, and perhaps even thrive. Despite the betrayal she had faced, the man continued to appear in her life quietly. Sometimes he would offer advice about her work. Sometimes he would just smile and wish her a good day. People noticed him too, but he never intruded or made her feel uncomfortable. She started to trust him more than anyone else since her husband left. There was an unspoken understanding between them. She did not know why, but it felt as if he had appeared in her life at the exact moment she needed someone the most. Meanwhile, rumors about her continued to circulate. Her former husband had ensured that her reputation remained tarnished. Some of her acquaintances avoided her. Even her relatives were hesitant. It was painful, but she learned to live with it. She focused on her work, on improving herself, and on creating a small, safe bubble of life where she could breathe without fear. She discovered a resilience inside her she did not know existed. One afternoon, she faced a serious challenge. A new client at her job demanded unreasonable tasks and criticized her work unfairly. Her first instinct was to apologize and retreat, but something inside her had changed. She calmly explained her perspective, refused to accept baseless blame, and completed her work with dignity. The client left, surprised by her confidence. She felt a small, victorious spark. It was proof that the strength she was building was real, not imagined. At night, she would often think about her husband. She replayed his words, his accusations, the way he controlled her life. Anger and sadness would mix into a heavy cloud. Yet she refused to let it consume her. She reminded herself that he no longer had power over her. She could choose how to respond to life, and she chose survival, dignity, and eventual happiness. She started keeping a journal, writing down everything she felt. Her words became a release, a way to understand herself and her emotions. The man continued to watch her from a distance. One evening, he left a note on her desk at work, simply saying, "You are stronger than you know." And she felt a chill when she read it. How did he see so clearly what she was feeling inside? She looked around the room but saw only the usual bustle of people. He was already gone. Yet his words stayed with her, echoing in her mind, urging her forward. Months passed and life grew slightly more manageable. She learned to navigate her job, save small amounts of money, and maintain her small social circle. She started taking pride in her independence. She could shop for herself, make decisions, and handle her life without needing anyone's approval. There was a sense of liberation in her self-sufficiency, even if loneliness still shadowed some moments. She realized that the person she had become was stronger, wiser, and braver than the one her husband had left behind. One day, a problem at work required her to travel to another city. She was nervous, but she had grown more confident. She handled the situation well and earned respect from her colleagues. For the first time, she noticed that people treated her differently, not because of her husband's lies, but because of her own actions. She realized that the world could see her as capable and worthy if she allowed herself to show it. That thought was liberating. Upon returning from the trip, she found the man waiting near her workplace. This time, he introduced himself properly, sharing little details about his background. He had a calm demeanor, but there was an intensity in his eyes that made her feel he had experienced struggles of his own. They began talking more regularly, and he gradually became a steady presence in her life. Unlike anyone else, he never rushed her, never pressured her, and never judged her for her past. His presence became a safe harbor where she could speak honestly without fear. One evening, she confided in him about her husband and the life she had lost. She spoke slowly, choosing words carefully, afraid of reliving the pain. But he listened, nodding and offering silent support. When she finished, he did not give advice or make promises. He simply said, "You survived because of your strength, not because of anyone else." She realized that her story, though full of pain, was also a story of resilience. Her days started to feel purposeful again. She began helping others at work, sharing advice, and supporting her colleagues. She discovered joy in small things, cooking a meal she liked, reading a book, or walking in the park. Life did not feel perfect, but it felt hers. She started to dream again, even if cautiously. She thought about saving enough money to live independently, to travel, or to start her own small business. The thought of creating something entirely her own thrilled her. Then one day, an unexpected message arrived. It was from someone who knew her husband well. They hinted at the lies he had spread and the real reasons he left her. She felt a mixture of shock and anger. All this time she had suffered silently, but the truth was finally surfacing. The man who had quietly supported her stood beside her as she read the message. She felt a strange mixture of relief and fear. Relief that the truth was coming, fear that her life might be thrown into chaos again. In the following days, she started connecting the dots. She realized that her husband's behavior was never about her mistakes. It was about control, power, and fear. Understanding this did not erase her pain, but it helped her stop blaming herself. She began to see that she had been a victim of someone else's insecurities and greed. With this clarity, she felt her strength growing even further. Her quiet supporter continued to be a source of encouragement. Sometimes they would sit together in a small cafe, discussing life, work, and dreams. He never imposed his opinions, but shared insights when asked. She started trusting him not because he was wealthy or powerful, but because he was consistent, kind, and honest. He never questioned her past or judged her for her mistakes. In his company, she could be herself without fear. One day, she faced her biggest challenge yet. Her husband returned, claiming to have changed and asking for reconciliation. He painted a picture of regret, but she saw through it. He had not admitted the truth, had not apologized, and had not recognized the pain he caused. Her heart pounded, but she refused to react with fear. For the first time, she felt a quiet confidence that she could stand on her own. She did not need to prove herself to him anymore. Instead of panicking, she calmly asked him to leave. She spoke clearly about the lies, the pain, and the life she had endured. She explained that she was no longer the same person, and that his return could not undo what he had done. He left, furious and confused, but she felt no fear. For the first time in years, she felt free. The weight of his control, lies, and manipulation had been lifted. She could finally breathe and think about herself again. As the days passed, she continued her journey. She focused on building her own future, growing her skills, saving money, and nurturing her confidence. The man who had quietly watched her become strong remained by her side, offering support without pressure. She had survived betrayal, humiliation, and loneliness. Now, she was thriving. Life was still challenging, but she knew she could face anything that came next. She realized that her strength was no longer hidden. She had found herself again. And nothing could take that away. She started noticing small joys in life that she had long forgotten. The sound of birds in the morning, the warmth of the sun on her face, or the aroma of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. These little things became a reminder that life still held beauty. She realized that for months she had been surviving rather than living. But now she was beginning to experience life fully again. The pain of her past remained, but it no longer defined her. Her days grew busier as she began taking on more responsibilities at work. She was recognized for her dedication and reliability. People who had once doubted her now began to see her as capable and trustworthy. It was a new experience for her, to be respected for her own efforts rather than judged based on someone else's words. Each small success brought her a quiet pride that she had never allowed herself before. The man who had quietly supported her continued to be a part of her life. He seemed content to be there without rushing or imposing himself. They shared conversations about books, dreams, and the small moments that often go unnoticed. She learned that it was possible to connect with someone without pressure or judgment. His presence became a comforting reminder that not all men were like her husband, that there were people who could see her worth without needing to control her. She began to explore the city more, walking through parks, visiting small cafes, and taking time to notice things she had previously ignored. Each outing felt like reclaiming a piece of herself that her husband had tried to take. She started making new friends, people who valued her for who she was. Slowly, her world expanded beyond the walls of her small rented room. She discovered that independence was not just about survival. It was about the freedom to choose, to explore, and to grow. One evening, while returning from work, she encountered a woman who seemed lost and upset. Without thinking, she approached her and asked if she needed help. The woman explained her situation, a financial problem, a family crisis, and she listened. She offered advice, comfort, and practical assistance. The woman left with tears in her eyes, grateful for her kindness. In that moment, she realized that helping others brought a healing of its own. Her heart felt lighter. She understood that her pain could be transformed into empathy and support for others. Her former husband's shadow lingered in the background. Occasionally, she would hear news about him through mutual acquaintances. He seemed to continue his life, unbothered by the consequences of his actions. But she no longer felt the same fear or anger. She had grown stronger and wiser. She understood that his life was separate from hers, and his choices no longer dictated her emotions. Her freedom came from letting go of what she could not control. She also discovered a love for learning that she had never explored before. She enrolled in online courses, read books she had always wanted to read, and explored topics that fascinated her. Each new piece of knowledge gave her a sense of accomplishment and opened doors to opportunities she had never imagined. She realized that education was not just a path to better employment, but a way to empower herself, to rebuild confidence, and to see the world through a broader lens. The man continued to be a steady presence, offering encouragement and support when she needed it. He never pried into her past, but he listened when she chose to share. His patience and understanding taught her that trust could be rebuilt, even after betrayal. Slowly, she started to see the possibility of happiness again. Not the fleeting happiness she had experienced before, but a steady, unquenching, enduring sense of peace that came from living authentically. One day, an opportunity arose for her to participate in a community project. It involved helping families who were struggling financially, much like she had been. She hesitated at first, unsure if she was ready to step into a leadership role. But with encouragement from her quiet supporter, she agreed. She found herself organizing events, coordinating volunteers, and speaking to families in need. Each interaction reminded her of her own journey. She felt a sense of purpose that had been missing for so long. The project was a success. She began receiving recognition for her efforts. People admired her dedication, empathy, and organizational skills. She felt proud, not because she wanted praise, but because she saw the tangible impact of her actions. It was proof that she could rise above her past and make a positive difference in the lives of others. Her self-esteem grew, and she felt more confident in facing challenges that once would have seemed insurmountable. During this time, her former husband attempted to contact her again, claiming to have changed and wanting to reconcile. She listened calmly, but felt no desire to return to the life she had left behind. She recognized the pattern of manipulation and control, and she refused to fall into it again. Her life had been rebuilt on her own terms, and she was not willing to surrender that freedom. She politely but firmly declined any further contact. Knowing that her peace was worth more than any false promises, her quiet supporter became a true friend. Someone she could rely on without fear. They spent time together, sharing experiences, discussing plans, and supporting each other's growth. She realized that relationships could be built on respect, trust, and mutual understanding, not control or fear. It was a revelation that brought both comfort and hope. As months turned into years, she continued to grow stronger. She saved money, invested in her education, and explored opportunities to advance her career. Each step was deliberate and thoughtful, reflecting a newfound wisdom born from hardship. She no longer felt the weight of her past, but rather the strength it had given her. She understood that her suffering had shaped her into a resilient, capable woman. The city she had once found overwhelming became a place of possibility. She discovered hidden corners, quiet cafes, and inspiring people. Her days were full, her nights restful, and her heart cautiously open to new experiences. She realized that life was not just about surviving or avoiding pain, it was about seeking meaning, connection, and growth. Then, one unexpected evening, she received a message from someone connected to her husband. They revealed information about the lies and manipulations he had used to control her life. Shocked and angry, she felt a rush of emotions. But this time, she did not feel powerless. She understood that knowledge was power, and that the truth, finally revealed, could no longer harm her. She discussed the information with her supporter, who helped her process it and plan her next steps carefully. Empowered by the truth, she began to take action. She reached out to people who had doubted her, explained her side calmly, and slowly began to restore her reputation. It was not easy, and it required patience and courage. But each small victory reaffirmed her belief in herself and her ability to shape her own destiny. She realized that the past no longer had the power to define her future. Her quiet supporter remained a constant source of strength. Together, they navigated the complexities of rebuilding her life and reputation. He never pressured her into decisions, never judged her emotions, and never attempted to control her. Instead, he offered guidance, encouragement, and unwavering support. Their bond grew stronger, based on trust, respect, and genuine care. She also started mentoring other women who had faced similar challenges. Sharing her story, offering advice, and providing support became a way for her to heal further. She discovered that helping others gave her a sense of purpose and fulfillment that she had never experienced before. Each success story she witnessed reinforced her belief in resilience, hope, and the human capacity for growth. As time went on, she embraced her independence fully. She moved into a larger apartment, invested in her skills, and built a network of friends and colleagues who valued her for who she was. Her life was no longer dictated by fear, manipulation, or lies. She had reclaimed her narrative and established herself as a strong, capable, and respected woman. One day, while reflecting on her journey, she realized how far she had come. She had faced betrayal, humiliation, and isolation. Yet she had emerged stronger and wiser. She understood that her life was her own, and that she had the power to shape it in ways that brought her fulfillment and joy. The pain of her past remained a memory, but it no longer held power over her heart or mind. She looked at her quiet supporter with gratitude and recognition. Without his presence, encouragement, and understanding, the journey might have been lonelier and more painful. But he had shown her that trust, kindness, and patience could rebuild even the most broken of lives. In him, she found not only friendship, but a mirror reflecting her own strength and resilience. And so, she continued forward, embracing each day with courage and determination. She had survived the storm of betrayal and manipulation, and now she was thriving in a life she had built with her own hands. The lessons she had learned, the importance of self-respect, the value of trust, and the power of resilience guided her every step. Her past had shaped her, but it no longer controlled her. She had found herself again. And with that discovery came a profound sense of freedom, hope, and possibility. She had come a long way from the woman who had walked out of her house months ago, carrying only a small bag and a heavy heart. Her life was still full of challenges, but she faced them with a strength she had discovered within herself. Every day she reminded herself of how far she had come, and that knowledge became a source of courage. She understood that the past could not be erased, but it could be transformed into lessons and resilience. Her work had grown more demanding, but she approached it with determination. She had earned the respect of her colleagues and supervisors. They trusted her judgment, relied on her decisions, and appreciated her calm handling of difficult situations. For the first time, she felt that her efforts were recognized and valued. She no longer needed to prove herself to anyone but herself, and that realization brought an inner peace she had never known before. The quiet supporter remained a steady presence in her life. He never intruded or forced anything upon her, but he had become someone she could count on. They shared long walks in the evenings, discussing ideas, dreams, and the small details of daily life. His calm and attentive presence helped her see that trust could exist without fear or manipulation. She found herself opening up to him in ways she had not with anyone else, and it felt natural and healing. One day, she received news that shook her. Someone from her past had contacted her, revealing more about her husband's lies and manipulations. The information was detailed and painful, but it also confirmed what she had suspected for so long. For years she had blamed herself for his actions, wondering if she had done something wrong. Now, she saw the truth clearly. His betrayal had been calculated, his words twisted, and his actions deliberate. The realization was painful, but it also gave her a sense of clarity and validation. With the support of the quiet man, she began to take steps to address the aftermath. She reached out to friends and family who had doubted her, explaining her side calmly and honestly. Some were skeptical at first, but as the truth emerged, they began to understand the situation. Slowly, her reputation started to rebuild. The process was not quick, and it required patience. But each step brought a sense of relief and empowerment. Her confidence grew, and she began to take more risks. She started a small initiative to help women who had faced similar betrayals. Sharing her story and supporting others became a mission that gave her life new meaning. She discovered that her pain could be transformed into a source of strength and inspiration for others. The gratitude and respect she received from those she helped reinforced her belief in herself and her ability to make a difference. One evening, while walking home after work, she reflected on her journey. The loneliness, the betrayal, and the struggle had all shaped her, but they no longer controlled her. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment and resilience. She realized that the life she had built for herself, though not perfect, was hers. She had reclaimed her power, her voice, and her choices. That realization was a victory more profound than any material success. Her interactions with the quiet man grew deeper. He shared parts of his own life and struggles, and she felt a genuine connection that went beyond friendship. Unlike her husband, he offered understanding without judgment. He did not expect anything in return. His support was constant and sincere. She found comfort in this presence, a steady anchor amid the turbulence she had endured. Their relationship was based on respect, patience, and shared understanding. A stark contrast to the control and manipulation she had experienced before as her life stabilized. She began to plan for the future. She saved money carefully, invested in her education, and explored opportunities for career growth. She started envisioning a life filled with independence, purpose, and joy. The thought of building something of her own, whether a small business or a career that allowed her to grow, excited her. Each small step she took was deliberate and empowering, a reminder that she was in control of her destiny. Her husband, aware of her progress, attempted to re-enter her life again. He reached out through messages, claiming regret and a desire to reconcile. This time she did not react with fear or desperation. She listened, acknowledged his words, but stood firm in her decision to protect her peace and autonomy. She understood that his presence in her life would only threaten the stability she had worked so hard to achieve. Calmly, she refused any further contact, asserting her boundaries clearly and confidently. Her focus turned to building relationships and connections that nurtured her growth. She strengthened ties with colleagues, friends, and community members who valued honesty and integrity. She continued her volunteer work, offering guidance and support to women navigating difficult situations. Each act of kindness, each moment of mentorship reinforced her sense of purpose and helped her heal further. She realized that helping others was a powerful way to reclaim her own life and transform her experiences into meaningful action. In the midst of these changes, she began to enjoy simple pleasures that had once seemed insignificant. Cooking a meal she loved, reading a book late into the night, or walking in the park became moments of joy and reflection. She discovered that life's richness was not always in grand achievements, but in the small, meaningful experiences that brought peace and happiness. She cherished these moments, allowing them to restore her spirit and remind her of the beauty that still existed in the world. The quiet man's presence remained a constant support. They shared moments of laughter, quiet reflection, and mutual encouragement. He never pressured her into decisions or dictated her choices, allowing her to grow and make independent decisions. Their bond deepened naturally, built on trust, patience, and shared understanding. She realized that genuine support could be as powerful as any grand gesture, providing the foundation for lasting resilience and growth. One day, she received an unexpected opportunity to lead a project that involved helping women in vulnerable situations. At first, she hesitated, unsure if she was ready to take on such responsibility. But with encouragement from her supporter, she accepted the challenge. She approached the project with care, dedication, and empathy, drawing on her own experiences to guide and support others. The project was successful, and she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her work made a tangible difference in the lives of others, reinforcing her belief in the power of resilience and compassion. Her life continued to evolve in ways she had never imagined. She built a network of friends and colleagues who valued her for her integrity and strength. She found joy in small achievements, taking pride in her independence and ability to navigate life on her own terms. She no longer felt defined by the betrayal and manipulation she had endured. Instead, she embraced her experiences as lessons that had shaped her into a capable, resilient, and compassionate person. As time passed, she reflected on her journey and the growth she had achieved. She recognized that the challenges she faced had forced her to discover strengths she never knew she possessed. She had learned the value of patience, self-respect, and perseverance. She had discovered that genuine support and trust could heal wounds that seemed insurmountable. Most importantly, she had reclaimed her life, her voice, and her choices. Her husband's attempts to manipulate her life were now powerless against the woman she had become. She had established boundaries, rebuilt her reputation, and cultivated a life of independence and purpose. She understood that the past was a part of her story, but it did not control her present or dictate her future. She had learned to navigate life with wisdom, resilience, and self-respect. And those qualities guided every decision she made. She continued to build a life filled with meaningful work, supportive relationships, and personal growth. The quiet man remained by her side, offering encouragement and companionship without intrusion or control. Their connection was a testament to the possibility of trust, respect, and mutual support after betrayal. In him, she found a steady presence that reinforced her confidence and strengthened her resolve. Through her journey, she discovered the transformative power of resilience, self-respect, and empathy. She learned that the pain of the past could be channeled into growth, strength, and meaningful action. Her experiences taught her to value herself, set boundaries, and pursue a life that reflected her true worth. Each day she lived with intention, embracing opportunities for growth, connection, and fulfillment. And so, she moved forward with courage and determination. She had survived betrayal, humiliation, and isolation, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Her life was no longer defined by the manipulations of others, but by her own choices, actions, and values. She had reclaimed her voice, her power, and her freedom. And she faced the future with hope, confidence, and a deep sense of self-worth. By the time the final year of her struggle approached, she had transformed into a woman who no longer feared life. Every morning, she woke with a sense of purpose, grateful for the chance to live on her own terms. She no longer measured her worth by anyone else's opinion, and the memory of betrayal, though still present, had lost its power over her spirit. She had discovered resilience, courage, self-reliance, in ways she'd never imagined possible. Her work had become more than just a job. It was a platform for her to grow, to help others, and to prove to herself that she could thrive. She had gained respect from colleagues and peers who admired her determination and integrity. Each small success reinforced her confidence, making her believe that nothing could take her down again. She was no longer hiding in the shadows of fear. She was stepping into the light of her own life, the quiet man who had been by her side since the early days of her. Recovery had become a cornerstone of her life. Their relationship had grown into one of trust, understanding, and genuine connection. He never pressured her to feel a certain way or make certain decisions. Instead, he supported her growth and celebrated her victories, no matter how small. His calm presence reminded her that love and support could exist without control or manipulation. He had become a mirror, reflecting her strength and the courage she had fought so hard to regain. She had also made it a mission to empower other women who had experienced betrayal or abuse. Her initiative had grown into a community of support, where women could share their stories, seek advice, and regain their confidence. She realized that her own journey, painful as it had been, could serve as inspiration and guidance for others. Every woman she helped reinforced her belief in resilience in the human capacity to overcome adversity. Her former husband's name no longer held power over her. She occasionally heard about his actions through the grapevine, but it no longer mattered. She had built a life independent of his control. He had tried to manipulate and humiliate her, but she had emerged victorious, not by revenge, but through self-respect and perseverance. She had learned that the best response to betrayal was to live fully and authentically, unshackled by fear or resentment. One day, an unexpected opportunity arose that could change her life completely. A prominent organization reached out to her, recognizing her work in helping vulnerable women. They invited her to lead a larger project, one that could have a lasting impact on the community. She hesitated at first, fearing failure or the attention it might bring. But with encouragement from her quiet supporter, she embraced the challenge. This step was a testament to her growth. She was no longer afraid to take risks and pursue opportunities. The project was demanding, but she approached it with dedication and strategy. She organized workshops, provided resources, and mentored women who were seeking to rebuild their lives. The project was a success, and her efforts were recognized widely. People admired her courage, her vision, and her determination to transform pain into empowerment. The sense of accomplishment was profound, reminding her of how far she had come from the frightened, isolated woman she once was. During this time, her personal life blossomed as well. Her relationship with the quiet man deepened, built on trust, respect, and mutual admiration. They shared dreams, hopes, and plans for the future, all while maintaining the independence that both valued. There was no rush, no pressure, only a connection that felt natural and affirming. She had found someone who saw her as an equal, someone who valued her strength rather than trying to control it. In him, she discovered not just companionship, but partnership. Her confidence continued to grow. She had learned to navigate challenges with grace and clarity. When obstacles arose, she faced them head-on, drawing on the lessons of her past and the strength she had cultivated. She no longer doubted her decisions or blamed herself for circumstances beyond her control. Each step forward reinforced her belief in her abilities and the life she was capable of building. The past, while still a part of her story, had become a tool for reflection rather than a source of pain. She revisited her memories not with anger or sorrow, but with understanding and wisdom. She could identify the moments that had shaped her resilience, the lessons that had taught her patience, and the experiences that had forced her to discover her inner strength. The journey had been difficult, but it had also been transformative, shaping her into a woman of courage, clarity, and purpose. Her initiative continued to grow, reaching more women each day. She saw the impact of her work in the confidence and independence of those she helped. Women who had once been silenced or marginalized began to find their voices, reclaiming their lives and their dignity. She realized that her own healing had created a ripple effect, touching lives in ways she had never anticipated. The pain she had endured had been transformed into a force for good. One evening, she reflected on the long road she had traveled. She remembered the days of fear, loneliness, and betrayal. She recalled the moments when she doubted herself, when she felt trapped and powerless. But she also remembered the small sparks of hope, encouragement of the quiet supporter, and the victories, both large and small, that had brought her to this point. She felt gratitude not for the pain, for the strength it had helped her discover. Her former husband had attempted to contact her again, perhaps hoping to disrupt her life. But this time, she responded with calm assurance. She did not engage in arguments or explanations. She simply maintained her boundaries, knowing that her life was hers to lead and her peace was non-negotiable. The power he once held over her had been replaced by self-respect, wisdom, and resilience. She had reclaimed her life fully, and no external force could take it away. Her future was no longer uncertain. She had established a stable, meaningful career, a supportive network of friends and colleagues, and a partnership built on mutual respect. She had the freedom to make choices, pursue dreams, and live authentically. The lessons of her past guided her, not as chains, but as tools to navigate life with clarity and purpose. She understood that her strength was her own, and it could never be taken from her again. Through her journey, she learned the true meaning of empowerment. It was not about wealth, status, or revenge. It was about self-respect, independence, and the courage to face life on one's own terms. She had discovered the power of empathy, the importance of trust, and the resilience that comes from enduring and overcoming hardship. Her life was a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the ability to rise from the darkest of times. She continued to mentor, support women, expanding her initiative and creating a community that valued resilience, self-respect, and empowerment. Her influence grew not through fear or control, but through compassion, understanding, and authentic leadership. She had created a legacy rooted in strength and hope, demonstrating that even in the face of betrayal, one could rise stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. Her journey had been long and challenging, but it had led her to a life of meaning, independence, and joy. She had learned that the past, no matter how painful, could not define her future. She had the power to shape her destiny, to pursue her dreams, and to live with courage and authenticity. And as she looked forward, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them with the strength and wisdom she had earned. In the end, she realized that the greatest victory was not in proving anyone wrong or seeking revenge. It was in reclaiming herself, her confidence, her independence, and her voice. She had survived the storm, rebuilt her life, and created a future filled with hope, purpose, and fulfillment. And with that, she embraced life fully, knowing that she was no longer defined by the past, but empowered by the strength and resilience she had discovered within herself.